With the Obama presidency drawn to a close, the National Urban League has issued a scorecard on the president's administration as it relates to African Americans. The organization scores the president on a host of issues, from jobs and the economy to civil rights, criminal justice, education, and housing, highlighting successes and outright failures. Joining us on the phone from New York is National Urban League President and CEO Marc Morial. Marc, how you doing?
Hey, good morning, Roland, and Happy New Year.
Glad to have you here. Let's get right to it. First off, I'm going to pull up housing and small business. Relief for homeowners, poor. Number of SBA-backed loans and minority business inclusion, poor. Marc, of all the issues that I've covered on Washington Watch on this network and on NewsOne Now for the last 3 years, I have hit these two specifically, and I have been highly critical of this administration, how they have failed America on these issues. For instance, I know for a fact, first of all, black folks lost 53% of black wealth because of the home foreclosure crisis, and then every time they had a housing plan, Sean Donovan would come on my show and I would say, "You got a new plan?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "That means the last one failed." Let me also tell our audience, and y'all know this, when it comes to these loans, and Marc knows this, the Wall Street Journal report, March 14, 2014, showed that in 2013, $23.09 billion in small business loans were provided in this country. Black folks only got $385 million, and it took the SBA 90 days to get back with me to answer these issues. And so, Marc, we have to just be honest about examining the presidency on specific issues and not getting caught up in emotion.
And Roland, you're absolutely right. That's why our scorecard, if people look at our scorecard, it's at NUL.org. It's the only what I call fair, balanced, and substantive assessment of President Obama. So importantly, we give him an overall rating of excellent. And in a number of areas like the economic recovery, the increase in high school graduation, we give him good marks. You point out an area where over the last many years, we got no traction on what we thought it was necessary to bring back black home ownership. And that would have been at the very beginning a principal reduction plan. And small business lending and minority business, if you will, overall emphasis we felt was lacking. So importantly, where we felt the president, and I'm going to give the president great marks on an overall basis, did well, we said that. Where we thought he fell short, we said that. So this is balanced. It's not a PR puff piece. It's not how do you feel about the president. It's how did he do. Now, here's what's important, Roland. What is the standard by which you evaluate a president? I believe the standard is America, and secondarily for us, is black America better off today than it was the day President Obama took office? And when you ask that question and you look at the vast majority of markers and numbers and things that you can really evaluate, the answer is yes.
Let me go through this here, Marc. Marc, another grade is appointments. Appointment of a black Supreme Court justice. Urban League rates the president poor. I know for a fact. First of all, Sotomayor was appointed the first time. Elena Kagan the second time. A black woman wasn't even interviewed when he appointed Elena Kagan. I pushed on this show for him to appoint a sister when Scalia died. I don't know why they chose Merrick Garland, but again, you give a poor rating when it comes to appointing a black Supreme Court justice. He had 3 shots, and a black person didn't even get interviewed for those vacancies.
So we give him a poor, but on the overall appointment to the federal judiciary, the circuit courts and the district courts, when it comes to Americans and diversity, we give him a very good mark. The Supreme Court, we still need someone on that court that upholds the legacy of Thurgood Marshall, who's passionate, who's civil rights oriented, who understands that that is what the Constitution demands and the Constitution requires, and embraces civil rights. And so we did not get that. So we were disappointed in the fact that a African American was not nominated. But take it in the whole, and that is good marks on the district and circuit courts, which are very important. But the Republicans blocked his ability to fill a number of vacancies in the last year and a half.
Yep.
So we're going to have to be vigilant under the new administration and look at these appointments, and we're going to be in the posture where we're going to have to oppose.
Marc, on criminal justice, you guys give the president a good grade on criminal justice reform, on addressing urban gun violence. You give him a grade of fair.
Yeah, so on criminal justice, no issue, I think, particularly in the second term, got the president's passion and effort up like criminal justice reform. So while we didn't get a criminal justice reform bill through the Congress, it wasn't for lack of a tremendous effort by the president and his Justice Department. I think his clemency program, commuting sentences for nonviolent drug offenders, is a high mark and a creative use of the president's pardon power. Instead of using it to do favors, he's used it systematically. And I also think that Eric Holder's efforts to reshape the prosecutorial policy of U.S. attorneys around the nation and not simply charging people to the max when they're there, when they've been arrested for nonviolent offenses, represents important progress. So you got to give the president strong marks in this because he elevated this issue, which is a very important civil rights community. And they made a decision about 6 months ago, I hope it holds, to detach from private prisons.
Okay.
So the Justice Department decided that they're not going to renew any contracts with private prisons. On gun violence, look, no, if you will, progress was made during any major gun legislation over the last 8 years. And there was effort. We think it should have been really a strong cause to live.
Right.
Because it's such a real issue in our community.
Marc,
so you give the president marks, but not, you've got to evaluate the actual result.
Marc, jobs in the economy, economic growth superior, black poverty reduction excellent.
Yeah, so look at the comparison, Roland. Where we were in 2009 and where are we today? So finally, you've got some significant reductions in the black unemployment rate. It's down to 7.8%. The poverty rate has come down. Wages have begun to increase. The truth is we are so much better off than we were in 2009 with tremendous problems ahead. Saying that the president deserves a good or an excellent doesn't mean that we've solved the economic challenges of black America or of the nation.
Right.
I think what we're trying, let's make sure we evaluate the president based on a standard of whether we're better off now than we were when he started.
Education, investments in equity and student rights superior, investments in HBCUs excellent. Marc, this is where I got to disagree with you guys. Right now we're showing some video of you sitting down with Arne Duncan, Secretary of Education at the White House. And I tell you right now, the decision by the Obama administration on Parent Plus loans, that screwed HBCUs, and they are still reeling from that. So that's why I disagree on excellent.
No question, Roland. And if you look at the scorecard on Parent Plus loans, we do not give the president a good mark. I think we give him a fair or a poor on that specific
I think
issue.
poor on that one.
Yeah, and on the overall issue of historically black colleges and universities, if you look at the resources and the dollars that have been included in the past several budgets, I think there's been an uptick in that. But look, HBCUs need a renewed effort. I'm on the board of a great HBCU, Xavier University, and like so many HBCUs, we're struggling and holding on to our students because they can't afford the tuition, and we need tuition assistance to help our young people who are very talented and smart get college degrees.
All right. Marc Morial, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Always.
All right.
Happy New Year.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. All right, let's go back to our panel. Tamika, I'll start with you. Your thoughts about these grades and breaking down these specific policy issues and how they affected black people with the Obama presidency.
I think their grades are somewhat fair. I mean, certainly on the gun violence issue, which is my area, I would say poor, because there's so much emphasis on sort of these big organizations and, working with people who are not really in the community. And that was a failure as far as I'm concerned, in terms of them not going in and figuring out how to fund and develop those small grassroots organizations that have people on the ground who actually save lives. And, you know, obviously on the economic side, I would say that I think that there certainly was economic growth, but on the black poverty issue, I'm not sure if I would say excellent, because when I travel this country, you know, talking with people, particularly young people who do not have jobs, who are certainly struggling all over this country, I don't feel that there's, you know, excellent, I think is certainly a lot.
Really
that's jumping over.
Barbara, I know you have, we know how you feel when it comes to Supreme Court nominations.
Oh, absolutely. What a failure.
Tell us how you feel.
What a failure.
Hold on.
Inexcusable.
And let's be clear, folks. The White House has not been happy with Barbara's critique on this, but her job is to push for that.
And that's why I had to laugh when I saw the grade for relationships with the civil rights community. I said, well, some of y'all. But in any event, the fact is that this administration should have done so much better on appointing an African-American woman to the court. They should have done better on parent loans. That was a self-inflicted wound. Should have corrected that immediately. Did not. I think that even on the issue of clemency and pardons, yes, he's done more, but the crisis was greater. He needed to do even more and could have done more.
Scott?
So there's a lot more.
I think it's fair. I think that the errors of this administration were glaring. I agree with the overall numbers generally. On criminal justice, I think the administration missed a real opportunity to put federal resources on the ground, not just in Chicago, Philly, D.C., and others, to do crime and gun violence prevention, jobs, job training, and entrepreneurship. They missed it, and it just didn't make any sense because you saw the president go to Sandy Hook and cry with those white families, but he wasn't crying with any of the black victims or those committing gang violence in Chicago. That was disappointing. And you're right, historical black colleges, we're still reeling. I'm on the board of trustees of Morehouse College. We're still reeling from that and raising money at the end of every year to help students graduate with private dollars.
Gianna, the reason I think this is important because I'm not interested in all of these. Look, I've seen all these other exit interviews, and let me be clear with our audience. We only interviewed President Obama one time, January 2010, First Lady Michelle Obama in late 2010. For the last 7 years, we have asked for an interview with the president. We were denied an exit interview as well because over the last 7 years, I wanted to ask him about a lot of these very issues. And so this report card is important because I'm tired of all these exit interviews. Well, what did the president do about race? No. The president is about policy. This is substance.
That was nice.
And you know what? I'm thankful for your candor on this issue. Very thankful. I think these scorecards were overly generous in their review of the president's administration. And I'm reminded of a guy named Mays Jackson in Illinois who has a moniker, "What's in it for black people?" And to a large extent, when we look at the numbers, when we look at, to your point, youth unemployment or black unemployment, the numbers don't show that the president has put us in a position that we're better off. Yeah, foreclosure crisis, we lost a lot in terms of you know, housing and all that, because that's where we get our wealth from. Generally speaking, that's where we. It was disaster. Yes.
First of all, it was a disaster for the entire country. Definitely for us. Definitely for us. But again, no. But look. But overall, look, I do believe they're right on a good economic grade because, frankly, we were in the doldrums. We were almost on the mark of a Great Depression, so score high there. But I think inside of that, we have to be very clear that there were civil rights organizations who are offering very specific, clear plans to help with housing and the multiple housing programs. And you can go look at, folks, the Inspector General's report in HUD. They said, for instance, HAMP, the first one was supposed to help 3 million people. It barely helped 700,000. And you can look at the data. Every time Sean Donovan, the HUD secretary, came on my show, I said, new plan. That means the previous one failed. And so I think as black folks, let's sit here, folks, stop being at the inauguration parade in 2009. Let's assess this fairly. And again, we must be willing to demand of any president about our issues, whether they're black or not.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.